The OPPO Find X2 Pro is the most definitive smartphone from OPPO to date, featuring a 1440p 120Hz AMOLED display, a Snapdragon 865, 12GB of RAM, and 512GB of storage. This device is absolutely shaping up to be the powerhouse of the year. If those specs aren't enough for you, it also supports 65W charging in order to charge the 4200mAh battery in just under 40 minutes. ColorOS has always been a thorn in the side of OPPO smartphones though, and the company claims that it's much improved. Is that the case? This is Adam Conway with XDA TV. The OPPO Find X2 Pro is a flagship in all aspects. No corners are cut, and every aspect of the device is premium. We'll get to all of that later though, as I really want to focus on ColorOS. ColorOS 7.1 is a renaissance of ColorOS, and it's based on Android 10. ColorOS 6 was probably the worst variant of Android I'd used in a long time, but ColorOS 7 is wildly different. Rather than looking like an iOS clone, it looks just like Android. There's no weird UI changes that hide things inexplicably, and it just works. Sure, the launcher could do with a little bit of work, for example, but hey, at least it's now an app drawer. ColorOS is quite literally everything that I've wanted on the software side of an OPPO smartphone. It's still not perfect, but so far I'm enjoying it a lot. Gestures can be a little buggy, and I am a bit sad that with the latest update, dark mode went from a pitch black notification center to a grey instead, though I'm told this is merely a bug and will be fixed in the future. Still, it's unique enough to look fresh and exciting, but not too unique where I question whether I even want to keep using the smartphone because of how it looks. I'm a huge fan of the huge clock above the quick toggles, for example, as it also shows a small weather update underneath. With ColorOS 7.1, you also get a mixture of static and live wallpapers pre-installed, and my favourite is this one here. This wallpaper is time synchronized and at night shows shooting stars going across a much darker sky. OPPO also has a bunch of custom notification sounds and charging sounds, though they're nothing really special. In terms of features, ColorOS 7 has lots of features. One that the company is particularly proud of is the O1 Ultravision Engine. The O1 Ultravision Engine is a feature that applies HDR colors and interpolates videos up to 120fps, supporting YouTube, Netflix and Amazon Prime to name a few. We couldn't get it working with a lot of content, but keep in mind we are on pre-release software. OPPO sent us a video on YouTube to test it with, and we confirmed that it does work, and it works very well. Note that turning on the O1 Ultravision Engine for boosting up to 120fps will drop the display resolution down to 1080p. While that technology is cool, and certainly a feat of engineering to achieve on a smartphone, there are other features that are just as useful that you may find yourself using a lot more. For one, gesture controls are here, and you have the choice between the ones included as part of Android 10 and ones you may be familiar with from One UI or Oxygen OS. On top of that, there's also a one-handed mode for navigating and controlling your phone, well, one-handed. The OPPO Find X2 Pro is a 6.7-inch screen, so I actually find myself using this a fair bit. Of course, there's also an always-on display that displays battery life, the time, date, and notifications. While you have to choose a time period it's enabled throughout, there's nothing stopping you just setting the start and end time a minute apart from each other if you want it on at more or less all times. With ColorOS 7 too, there's a big focus on usability and digital well-being. That's why there's not only a system-wide dark mode, which we already mentioned, but there's also a new feature called OPPO Relax. OPPO Relax plays comforting sounds that you can leave on when trying to sleep, and there are also music packs for different scenarios that you may find yourself in. Meditation, concentration, and sleep are all accounted for here. Finally, there are also breathing exercises too that you can follow. Even my first impressions from the packaging alone really drove home the fact that this is OPPO's shot at a device with no compromises. I called the OPPO Reno 10X Zoom my phone of the year last year, because it represented something great that I felt the company could really tap into. The Find X2 Pro is exactly that something great that I knew they could pull off. NFC is here for contactless payments. There's a vegan leather backing on the phone for grip. There's a punch hole front-facing camera. What's not to love? Personally, I would prefer a pop-up camera, but the punch hole isn't actually all that bad. Starting with the display, I regard this as one of the most important aspects of any smartphone. It's how you primarily interact with your device, so it makes sense for this to be the best that it can be. 1440p is crisp, and 120Hz is incredibly noticeable. Don't believe anybody who says it isn't. On top of that, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 is the flagship chipset of the year, and with that you should obviously expect flagship performance. The best way I can demonstrate this is through GameCube emulation, where the Snapdragon 865 keeps the Simpsons Hit and Run running at a consistent 60 FPS, the first chipset I've had that's actually been able. With the cameras, you're going to be getting excellent performance more or less no matter the situation. While there are still updates coming out for the camera, and so I'll pass on judgment for now, here are some photos that I've taken over the past week and a bit since getting the device. I'll be doing a more in-depth camera review over on the XDA portal. The front-facing camera is 32 megapixels, while the primary camera on the back is 48 megapixels. The OPPO Find X2 is, by all accounts, a top smartphone that could well be one of the best of the year. It comes out this May, so the software I'm using at the moment is very early and may not completely reflect on the final version when the phone does release. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable experience so far, and I'm looking forward to the future of OPPO. This has been Adam Conway with XDA TV. Thanks for watching.